Okay, should we start? Okay. What's happening here? So, yeah. I'm so sorry that Sam is not here because I have one slide for him. If he's outside, I hope he will be here. Well, I'll be talking about a cloud app security, and this is our agenda for today. Very quick one. We have a diagnosis and a description of the problem. We also have the cure. We will see what the cure is, and then see how the cure works, and then we'll perform a live surgery. That's a new terminology for demos, and give a nice closing words before the next coffee starts. So this one's for Sami, because you know Sami's story with Mark Krasinovich and with his titles. So when Mike Krasinovich started, it was calling him Sam. Yeah, you know, well. So I decided to give myself a proper name. So that's, yeah, these are the perks when you're your own boss. So you can call yourself whatever you want. So like Sam is a senior technical fellow. No, I'm this one. So okay. And well, what do we have now? What is this used for? I mean, it's yeah, it's for phishing. So, and I can tell you that this stuff can protect you, your data and your cloud applications, and from ransomware, from malware, and from other types of threats as much, I mean, clouds, data in the cloud, as much as the application here is useful. So these two things are very similar and give the same amount of protection for the data you're storing in the cloud and from the threats that are upon your data that is in the cloud. So the standard tools don't work anymore. So these tools were useful in the standard environment, so behind four walls. So nowadays, the data isn't anymore inside the four walls. So we can't have the same solution for years, for ages. So we need new solution because the people work in a different ways. So we can also enforce our policies on a different ways. So we could say, as a CEO or a manager, you could say, if I catch anyone storing their applications and the data, I mean, in the application in the cloud that are not approved, for example, if I catch anyone who uses mega upload or who stores data in the Dropbox rather than in Skype for Business, then he or she will be in big trouble. But you can't do business that way. So you need to have ways to control the data. So it's this doing business this way is not the way it's used to be. That is good. So what was before? We had four walls. We still have, but the data we are protecting now isn't here anymore. So we had four walls. We had firewalls. We had the control managed the devices, interfaces, and we've had known perimeter. We knew our security footprint, and but now it's not like that anymore. So this was yesterday, and now and tomorrow is like this. So we work everywhere. Our need to work everywhere, of course, draws the data also elsewhere. So we can't stay at home or work in our planes or while we're traveling while the data is inside four walls. So the standard tools for protection are not any any longer useful. So the data is now everywhere. So whether it's Salesforce, whether it's Dropbox, whether it's Mega Upload, whether it's anything else. So we might have thousands of different applications. Microsoft has a database of around 13,000 cloud applications that they support with the Cloud App Security. So a little bit of exciting statistics, but yeah, that's a nice oxymoron, exciting statistics. Well, the statistics say that more than 3/4 of employees use applications, we are talking about cloud applications. They use more than 3/4 of users use applications that do not comply to a certain standard, and then that is not approved. 1/4 of the data that is shared is leaked, so or lost or stolen. So we have users that are offsite, that are not between the four walls, and the data, as it travels, it gets lost, it gets stolen. It's not contained in four walls anymore. So what do we do? The Windows Defender or traditional antiviruses or protection applications are not longer working. So we need a different tool. So the cure comes, of course. Microsoft has answer to every need, and there comes the Cloud App Security. So what does Cloud App Security do? What it does? So it watches over the applications that we use in the cloud and gives us insight where people store the data, how people is using data, where people use data, and how people behave. How you get a complete insight of your data usage in the cloud out of four walls. So how it's being done. I've been asked, is the data shared in any way, or do we control the privacy? How that works anyway? So the Cloud App Security is agentless. You don't need any agents to monitor your cloud usage. That's a good thing. And you need to have a subscription, of course. I won't be talking about details and costs. You can check that because it's changing. And the point is that now that we have all the fancy data centers and Azure, we also have machine learning. We have analytics, behavioral analytics, and so on. So the Cloud App Security uses that data, uses metadata to chew and present you the insight of how the data is used in the cloud. For example, you can upload a log from a firewall or a router or appliance to Cloud App Security, and then Cloud App Security presents that data to you. Transaction logs or the firewall or appliance logs don't have any sensitive data. They have only data, for example, user and ID of user that can get its privacy in Cloud App as well. The data, when the resource was accessed, by who, when, for how long, what the action was, and that sort of things is collected and analyzed. So no actual data is ever transferred to Microsoft. And the other way is that vendors such as CloudForce and Dropbox or any of these 13,000 applications have an APIs through which you can control and pull the data into the cloud application security. So by connecting your Cloud App Console, your account, to the API, through the API to the cloud application, you pull the data that you need, that the provider cloud application that is providing to you, and the cloud app security choose that data and provides that data to you in a meaningful and understandable way. So we have different questions and different scenarios that we might ask ourselves about the usage of data in the cloud and cloud apps. So how do you know that you've been breached or that you've suffered from a data loss? Typically, the 200 days is the amount of time that users that passes between the breach occurs and when the user is aware that the breach has occurred. So you don't want to wait so long to find out that your data was lost. So how can you detect that? By having a cloud app security, because it can alert you when something anomalous is going on. So how do you know that you've been under attack? It alerts you immediately. How can you prevent someone to use unapproved applications, cloud applications? How can you prevent a user from logging in into a corporate network from the Hong Kong airport, for example, or Beijing, or even if you work for military, how do you prevent logging in or from a country that is not that you are not allowed to log in from? You can't with the traditional applications, but now we do have an insight. You can't really prevent that user from doing that, but you can get an insight who was the user that logged in, and prevent in certain cases from logging in, or from certain IP addresses, for example, from certain ranges, and in combination with other protection technologies, you get a more complete data protection scheme. For example, Cloud App Security pairs good with Azure information protection and rights management that complement Cloud App Security to give you a better protection for your data. So how do you know if your Cloud App Security is compliant, whether maybe your company is ISO certified or follows certain standards that are required by law, for example. So you need to use the application in order to stay compliant. You need to use applications that is approved, and you don't want your users to use the application that does not comply to certain security standards. So there's a high-level overview from how this works. And did I just skip that slide? Yeah, probably. Well, I mentioned before that you have two ways to control your data. You connect to Cloud App Security to your cloud application through the API, or you can set up a one-time log entry, or you can set up also a continuous delivery of logs through the server. We will see how it's done later. And we get complete insight into the cloud discovery and investigation, and risk detection and threat detection, cloud information protection. So we are able now to control and monitor the data. So So through the shadow IT discovery, you can discover whether your users are using the non-approved applications. There are a lot of applications and that Cloud App Security supports. Many are added daily, and you get an insight into what's going with your data by monitoring trends. So you can't know what it's anomalous if you don't know what is normal. So at the first time when you set up a Cloud App Security, it needs a little time to pick up the trends and to pick up what is normal for your organization, for application. That it usually takes around 7 days. And but after that, you can tell, and Cloud App Security can tell with much security and that something wrong is going on. And it's been constantly updated. For example, they've also updated with the latest settings and policies to detect ransomware, CryptoLocker and other applications that encrypt things. So they've added also a policy to detect that. But you can detect many different things. For example, like if a user logs every day from Monday to Friday from 8 to 5, then suddenly 3 days in a row the user was logged on a weekend at 10 or 3 a.m. So that's anomalous usage, and you get an alert that something is wrong with this user. So this user might be a user that is doing harm to your company, or the credentials of that user might have leaked and someone else is using. So it gives you an alert and insight what is going on, so you can take appropriate actions. So otherwise, you would have known that. And Cloud App Security knows already. For example, if a certain user logged in Amsterdam and the same user can't log in from Boston in an hour or in 5 minutes, so it knows, it alerts you that there's obviously something wrong with that user. If the user is working elsewhere, so you as his or her manager know that the user is working elsewhere, so you don't take any actions. But on the other case, you might get into investigating what it is. So and the good thing here is that if, for example, if the user is using SharePoint or OneDrive for business, that you can intervene immediately on the spot where you actually notice the problem and take appropriate action. So just a few clicks away is the action exists of blocking the users or changing appropriate permissions or taking actions into preventing more harm. So we have, with Cloud App Security, we have more control of what is going on. So the Cloud App Security is using Microsoft machine learning and intelligence service, and it's using Microsoft security reports as well. And the high-level overview is this one. And like I said, the APIs collectors through either manual uploading or continuous collection through the servers, and agents. Agent means a virtual machine, an appliance that you download and that you install. It's a Ubuntu Linux machine that you install that can collect logs from various appliances that you have and upload it to the Cloud App Security. Or you can download the usage data using APIs. So how log collectors works. So when you log in into the portal.cloudappsecurity.com and initiate a log collector installation, then first you have to download the Ubuntu machine. It is very quick installation, and after that you have the key that needs to match the download machine. So the machine, the collector knows to which Cloud App security account is connecting to, so it can upload the logs into the right place. So after obviously I cut it a bit because it's connecting to the cloud, and it can take significantly longer, but not much longer than a couple of tens or 20, 15 minutes or so. And after you enter the sudo collector config DBA starts, that's the number that that's unique to your installation in your account. Then the virtual appliance is set up, and it collects the logs from the appliances that you have. And it's at the time of installation was the version 12, and you have the options to update it to the latest version, and it's really a lightweight. It's around a gigabyte. It's not so. It just stands there and collects the log, compresses them, and then sends them to Cloud App Security. It's very. How can you add an app and a Cloud App Connect? So you can see these are the few apps that are here: Box, Dropbox, G Suite, and so on. So you can collect a very vast number of cloud applications. So if you enter your details, it's very simplified. And for Amazon services, it's a little bit more complicated, but not so complicated that you can't do it in a reasonable amount of time. So enter your email and get a code from the Cloud App, connect to your account, and that's practically it. In the 3 steps, then you have the application that is installed. So first we have here Office 365 and SharePoint and OneDrive already connected, and then I've added the Dropbox. So it is up to a Cloud App API provider, and Twitter, for example, you can also add as well. So and others. So it's up to the API provider to provide you with a meaningful data for connecting and for analyzing. So it's up to the provider to support the Cloud App Security in a meaningful form. So it's not Microsoft's fault if you don't get enough of meaningful data, but it's up to them. And a few steps to see in a live environment. No. Yeah, it's a little bit. Let me see if I can. No, it's not. Okay, never mind. I need more space in order to see more effectively here. But this is the start dashboard of Cloud App Security, where you have main four parts of discovery, investigation, control, and alerts. So you have also here the settings, where you can manage agents, and where you can manage all other settings settings as well, like branding for your application and connecting it to Azure Information Protection as well. So you can only scan for IIP labels as well for this tenant, or for all as well. So it correctly identifies the labels of Azure Information Protection classification from other Azure account, not just from yours, and it classifies that as external. So you know that it wasn't you or your company that classified that document as such, but it came externally. The mail settings as well. These are the things that should be done here. What I want to show you is that you can instantly have an insight into how many accounts are monitored, how many files, how many activities, and so on. These are nice graphical displays that are not displayed here because of the recent data. I have the data, but not from the 90 days. And I have connected the Dropbox, for example. The general dashboard is here, and we can view a dashboard for a specific risk type, for example, for threat detection, privileged accounts, and so on. But if we want to have an insight into what's going on, then we can see that we are protecting and we are monitoring different categories, CRM, collaboration, and so on. The various filters are present here, like apps sanctioned and unsanctioned and other. What are sanctioned and what are unsanctioned applications? So we basically have the others is every application that we didn't tag as sanctioned or unsanctioned. Sanctioned is approved, that is why it has a green color code, and unsanctioned is the one that is not approved by our management or by the company, the ones that we should avoid or not use for any of the reasons. So we have the insight in what is the general use, and for example here you have also the app's headquarters map where you can see where the vendors or from the cloud apps that are your users are using coming from. So top users are also identified by traffic uploads or transactions as well. This is really a small screen, and discovered apps are apps that the cloud app is discovering. So the score is an aggregate score from 1 to 10 that is made up of different scoring categories, and let's see, IIS has a score of 10, and every detail here is taken into account and given a certain number, so we can know which application works fine and which is approved and which is not approved. This is totally customizable, so you can give a certain score a higher weight that it's probably most important for you. So for example, like in compliance, you can edit that, or you can give it a more weight to accommodate your needs. And for example, if you don't like that application, or the application, the user you have identified is not good enough because of their reputation or their settings, or because of any of the reason. Where's that? Score. Then you can deny users using that application at all. So we've seen why the aggregate score is 2, because it's not compliant to any of these standards. So we can instantly mark that application as unsanctioned, and then it's categorized as such. So we have an insight into what is the usage based on IP addresses. Of course, we can sort that and see whether it's the users. What are the IP addresses that had the most transactions or the biggest traffic, and sort that by date as well, and by users here as such. So let's see what Mary has been up to. Oh no, it's okay. So we see that this particular user is using 42 apps, and that has been active or has performed some activity on that date, uploaded that much of traffic, and did these transactions. That user is using these applications, and under that dashboard you can actually see which users use which applications, whether they are approved or not approved, whether they are compliant or following the orders or the standards that the company is up to. So that one user has been using all these applications, and we can see the date, of course, when the user used that, and from which IP addresses that user connected and accessed these applications. So if we want to go a little bit deeper, then we need to investigate a little bit more. And as I'm logged in as an administrator, you can see what I was doing here at what time. So I blocked an application, and the user is admin. What application here, and from what IP address, and what is the location. And geotagging is here as well working. So you can see activities that I performed, and what are these activities were. So I edited cloud discovery policy. The user was this one from these user groups. What was the date, and from what device? You can also restrict application usage, and by device and by IP address, by any tags you specify, by location, by ISPs, by everything that comes to your mind. And you can also filter the usage, and by sending commands to, for example, a Cisco appliance, in a form of, if I want to secure the access to these sites, then I have already automatically built the script for me, whether it's for Cisco appliance or whether it's, for example, for FortiGate appliance to block user applications to these sites that I have not approved. If I want to control, if I want to add a control to, we have policies and templates, and policies are built upon the templates, but recently they've added an interesting one. And for example, logon from a risky IP addresses that we've identified as risky, different countries. And potential ransomware activity is the one that is very, very nice to have one these days. So this policy has this name and description, of course. Severity is very high, and that fits under the threat detection. So, like you said, Marco, the policy, this one acts on either single activity that annoys you, or you can also define the policy to react after a repeated activity of minimum 30 repeated activities within 5 minutes time frame or more. So the policy is applied to a single app or per user, so, or per folders per user. So these are activities that are associated, for example, to these policies, and to this policy, and you get an alert if something goes wrong with that, if the user starts uploading or making transactions with that kind of applications that has these extensions, then you get an alert, or you get a chance to stop that immediately if you like.
How does this tie in with certain privacy laws?
Well, no data is ever read from a user. So what you can do, you can you have the possibility to encrypt the usernames. So you don't, if the law requires, then the usernames have the possibility to be encrypted, and you as an administrator can decrypt the username, but that is recorded, and you have to explain why you chose to decrypt the username. So that has to be explained. But the complete user anonymity is supported, and you just block these extensions, these files, these types of files, and that's it. So this policy applies to all applications and plus to Office 365. And additionally, you have the options to say to send it as email or an SMS. So I'm creating that policy now, and it's being created. It's such a small screen, I can't even go around and see what's going on here. We have a lot of alerts here, and we can see that Megan has been very naughty and publicly shared confidential files, for example. So this resolution is still open, and it's classified as high severity. It was 2 months ago. When I click on that one, and I get an insight what was Megan doing. She was doing something with blog post preview on the SharePoint, and we get an instant action of open that SharePoint link online, open via public link, refresh, and view related activity, or to protect it. This is the RMS, and put user in quarantine, and put the file in trash or inherit permission if the SharePoint site has one, or make private so no user outside the organization is allowed to see it, or remove that malicious user as a collaborator and external user. So we have a lot of actions that we can take to protect the protected files. So, and these are all activities related to match the file and for that particular user. That being said, we have a final diagnosis, and I can say that it gets better every day, and it's a really nice solution. It's agentless. It doesn't require you to install anything. You just connect the users, your account to the APIs and to applications you are using, and just give it enough time to collect the data and crunch it and present it. So it has a lot of controls. It's agentless user. It works seamlessly with Office 365, and that's it. With the cloud app security, well, definitely we'll see more of it. So ISA server is not anymore useful here. So cloud app security is the way to go, and we'll see more of it in the future, I think. Coffee break. Thank you, guys. And it's a lightweight topic, and but a very powerful one, and that gives a really good protection, and in the way that we've never seen before. Yes.
I do also some talks about Office 365 cloud app security stuff like that. And I noticed that a lot of those security dashboards with the telemetry you can now see Azure dashboard and Office 365 are all merging in the one big Microsoft security dashboard.
Yeah.
Is this also going that way?
Yeah. So I mean, these cloud app security it's separate, but well. As an Office 365 subscriber, you have the option to you've given the possibility to use the part of the cloud app security as a protection for Office 365, and but the cloud app security will stay a separate product, but the Office 365 protection leverages the cloud app protection as well. But if you've seen the BI dashboards and analytics and these one, they all share same everything. So same telemetry. So that's you can have thousands of different views from the same data, and I think that's good. But yeah.
But that's why Office 365 is merging dashboards, identity protection, advanced threat protection. They're all going Microsoft Defense dashboard.
Yeah.
They're all going to merge into one big dashboard, all the telemetry.
Yeah.
And from there you click on it and you get slides up. So you really need high resolution than this on the beamer. You really need widescreen because it flips up. But this really opens a new tab. So is this?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea or where they are going? Is it going to be integrated? Do you know? Or?
I wish so. I wish so. But yeah, like you said, it gets totally unproductive, and you don't have a good view of what's going on. But this one is it's really responsive. You have different dashboards on different windows, but I'd like to see what these like. I would like to see the Azure blades in this form. So yeah, Azure boards our blades are nice, but they have some pluses and minuses. But this one seems to be more responsive, and I don't know. It's
very impressive.
It's good. It has a lot of features, and they're adding more and more each day. And it's going to be exciting. Yeah. Even Intune is evolving. So.
What's the cost of it?
Pennies. I mean, it's not.
It's just subscription.
Yeah, it's a subscription. I forgot what the cost is, but I think it's.
Yeah, there's a standalone thing.
Yes, but
You can have to stand alone for a couple of dollars.
I can't remember, but it's not much. I don't.
If you get
5.
E5, it's ready.
Yeah. But for standalone, it's per. I don't know what the price is actually. Yeah. But it's not much, like $20 or something like that, euros. Yeah, I was finished 5 minutes ago, so I just kept talking. I mean, oh, thank you.